All right, guys, we are here. It's midday here on a Friday, pretty much, and hanging out with Bullet. People don't know who he is. He's my cat. Call him my co-host. He's just sitting here relaxing. But yeah, our next guest, I found him, or really he found me on Podmatch as always. And again, I always recommend it to those out there because it is a great way to finding some very interesting people, great guests. And it's relatively free unless you want to sign up for the premium service. And they aren't a sponsor. I'm just saying if you're someone who's looking for content, or you want to be on someone's show, like I've done that too. But anyway, so he reached out, and we have some similarities in our lives, and we also have a lot of differences. But we have connected, and it's the first time I've really got to know him, obviously, and there's a lot to talk about. So I appreciate him and his honesty, and it takes something we were kind of talking about here off mic, or off air, I should say, off the recording, whatever you want to say, is that him and I are in much better places in our lives, but it took a lot to get here, and I never want to skip the steps because everybody wants to know how you do it. How do you do it? And I think sometimes people will say, hey, come on my show and talk about it. And it's like, okay, all right, tell your life in 10 minutes. It's like, good luck. I don't have that. I'm cutting out all the meat, because there's a lot of things that we go through that sometimes may not seem like it matters, or may not seem like it's important, but it is. And we all go through our own struggles, and we all deal with them in different ways. But anyway, we can help someone else out there. That's the best part. So anyway, buddy, you want to tell us your name, maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, TJ. My name is Bob, and I live in central Pennsylvania, actually, within physical proximity to the host of this podcast, and was very blessed to connect with him on the Podmatch app. And I did a little bit of background research on you, TJ, and listened to your latest pod. And I think I communicated with you that it was as though you were inside my head when you were talking about your mental health struggles and the highs and the lows and the feeling like you've got it dialed in, followed by the crash, and followed by all the other negative words you can use to have a mental health lapse.
Sure.
And I said, I really want to talk to this guy. And I knew that you had various things going on in your life, but one of the things that we did have in common besides the mental struggles was the eyesight issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I was involved in a hunting accident in 1983, very Dick Cheney-esque.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about, by the way, when you told me that earlier. He was hunting for quail. Yep.
Yep. Well, this was a small game season in Pennsylvania, and it was, I guess I could use another analogy, Elmer Fudd style, because we were hunting wabbit.
Wabbit, yeah.
And the guy that I was hunting with was in a field next to me, and there was a big line of field hedges, brush, if you will, that was between us. And he shot at a rabbit that was running across the field, and I was behind the hedgerow. And for those of you not familiar with a shotgun shell, inside are these very, very small lead BBs. They call them shot, hence the shotgun. So they're smaller than something in a Red Ryder BB gun. And they peppered my entire body on the right-hand side. And a lot of that shot is still in there after 40 years. But the part that really got me was just one of these little lead shot went into each of my eyeballs. And it wrecked my right eye. I lost that eye, although I still have the eye. It's completely dead and looking off, to one side, like a caricature of, Morty Feldman, that type of thing in a movie.
Right.
My left eye is still more or less intact, although the retina is ripped up, and I owe a lot of gratitude, and I owe a lot of where my life is and the residual vision that I have to a doctor named Sheldon Kaplan at Geisinger Medical Center in Danville, Pennsylvania, who was on call the day. Yep. I was on call that day, or he was on call that day, and I came rolling in, and he tacked that retina together with an argon laser and later a YAG laser, and was able to save it, put little plastic buckles and things like that in the back of the eye, which kept the integrity of the eye together. But I was never able to recover from the retinal damage because the retina is, I got to watch what I say here. I don't want to get above my pay grade, but the retina is part of the optic nerve, and the optic nerve goes right into the brain. It's almost like the brain, optic nerve, and retina are all one thing. And that is a type of nerve tissue that cannot be replaced. So no eye transplants and things like that. I've been waiting 40 years for the breakthrough.
Yeah.
But as a result, I have gone through the world of loss of independence, loss of confidence, loss of esteem and belief in myself and the world that I live in and the operating system that I had adopted. And in 1983, the world of social supports and support groups and interventionary agencies that are everywhere now, they weren't nearly as in place back then. That's another way of saying that I was checked out of the hospital and pretty much said, okay, good luck. And there I was, 20 years old, at that time of life where a man is just coming into feeling as though the world is his oyster, sense of excitement and adventure is heavy upon him, and suddenly, boom, karate chop across my momentum of life. And it's, hey man, you just sit here. And I was not equipped to understand what was going on. I was not emotionally able to digest it. I was never wired to be an alpha to begin with.
Right.
So I just I retreated into a shell at age 20 and sat around. Nobody approached me, and I didn't approach anybody about the mental health side of a traumatic, life-changing injury and how to adapt to it, how to think about your life trajectory differently, how to think about the way the world unravels with you, or I should say unfold, not unravel. The world unfolds with you, and to think about it as an unsighted person versus someone with their capacity of sight.
Well, the first thing is there's no blueprint that teaching you how to mourn your own body.
Well, that's exactly right.
To lose something.
I found out much later, to the detriment of some relationships that I've gone through in my life, that you have to go through the 5 stages, just like you have to go through the 5 stages of any type of loss, with death and loss of a loved one being number 1. But when you lose something like your sight, or even if you lose a job, or if you lose any type of your health, you have to go through a grieving process as well to understand it and to process it, to examine it, and to be able to successfully and healthily move on to the next stage. So you're right. It was a big, wide world out there, very intimidating, very frightening, an infinite landscape, an infinite horizon with no landmarks on go this way, go that way. And I had to figure that out on my own. And even to this day, still trying to figure it out. But back then it was much more raw and much more intimidating. So
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, I was born in 88, and I remember my mom, what she was going through. I was 4, and it was 92, and she was lost. She was trying to figure out how, what do we do with this? What kind of schools do you put you in? And for a lot of people to know, the ADA didn't happen to the early 90s. And for she didn't know anything about that. She just wanted to try to find something that could help, manage my life a little easier. She didn't know what kind of school I was going to go to, and just what kind of help. I mean, I went through so many surgeries and so many things to try to keep it together. Mine is more cornea related. but it's just like, what do you do? And she was there for every step. But there was nothing she could read, or there was I mean, the internet wasn't really developed. I mean, it was kind of becoming a thing, but not really for the public. Um, and so she didn't have websites she could just go and look up, or find groups online, or all these different
Mm-hmm.
individuals. So she's just in a small town of 30,000 people going, how do I save this kid's eyes, and how do I, what do I do for him? And you just kind of wing it. You try your hardest. And like for me, because I was so young, I didn't have time to mourn. I was actually relatively a pretty happy kid, even though I went through a lot of pain. But as I got a little older, I started to develop more of an attitude, more frustration, because I realized that I was different and that life wasn't the same for me, and I didn't like that. And so then when I realized that there were kids that had it easier than me, it was like, why? Because I didn't want to stand out. Because I was relatively a very happy kid, and as you said, like I wasn't an alpha male either. Like I was just, obviously I was only 4, but as I got a little older, even into my teens, it was like I started to become. I felt like I was so vulnerable, because it's like, man, like you think about dark things, and it's like, well, if I get robbed, like I might not be able to see him coming, and things like that. You think about all these things, and you just realize that you're just like this deer on the Serengeti, and there's all these predators. There's no other prey on the Saharan desert or whatever. Like you are literally just there at a watering hole. There's crocodiles in front of you. There's lions over there. And you were like, holy shit, life is so like I am a sitting duck here, and you start to realize that I am different, and I don't like that, because when you're a kid, being different is not good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know all too well.
Well, again, it happened when I was 20. And
Right.
even when I was 20, I was very conscious of standing out and being different, and very prone to being embarrassed and humiliated. And when you have that as a precondition, when that's your default setting, is don't do anything embarrassing, and don't humiliate yourself, don't stand out. Well, you're shortchanging yourself of all the great opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
But you don't know any better at the time. You're just trying to survive, and it's a survival mechanism. And for you, when you're 4 and through your teens, it's all about perception. I mean, it's the 1%ers that can drop their jaw and say, "I'm plowing my way through life. I don't care what anyone thinks," because the vast majority of kids definitely care about what others think.
Right.
And it's mortifying to think that somebody is looking at you and thinking something bad about you at that age. And how do you program that out of a child? Well, you don't. And you just have to have a good support network in place. And a lot of us never had it, and even some of us still don't. So,
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's another thing that is not really told. It's just this underlining thing that you have to deal with, is a lot of times you're always in comparison to people who are, in our case, fully sighted. And so then, and you do it to yourself a lot of times as well. You're like, oh, I'm that kid over there. Like, how could I beat him in a race, or how could I beat him in a video game, or how can I get an A on my paper like he got? And it's like, you can't do it his way. But they want to try to teach you the same exact way, and then when you can't, that's when they're like, oh, so you're just different, and you have less capabilities than this person, and you have all these limitations, and then people put more of them on you than you really have. And then you look at your life and you assess it, and you're like, and you're from a young brain, and you're like, oh God, like world's not for me. And like, it just becomes
oh,
scarier and scarier, and you're like,
mm-hmm.
and again, vision is a one thing. I mean, if you ever put a blindfold on people and you put it on long enough, eventually it gets scary. Like, and I have some sight, as it does he. Like, it's scary to know that, like, the lights could go out and they don't come back on. That is I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been running from that my whole life. And yeah, and again, I'm in a much better place and whatever, but at the same time, like, when I look at what I was back then, I was a scared kid just trying to live life, trying to survive however I could, and try to make friends. Hopefully, I wasn't being the person I wanted to be, because I just didn't want to stand out. But it took me to my adulthood to where I really was like, you know what, this isn't so bad. It's not all great either. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it's like I what I went through is, whew. Um, but I don't know if I could have dealt with it any other way because I had no like preconceived like information or thoughts or anything to know what to do.
When did you feel the momentum start to turn in a more positive way for you?
Weirdly enough, like maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Because I had the first thing, like one of the things that we struggle with, I mean, to be loved and so many things, but like one thing I've always struggled with is to be heard. And so many people, I never felt people took me serious.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for people to take me serious, they had to push me out of my comfort zone and out of my character, even to where like the Philly side, I always say, kicks in. Where I'm just pushing back and I have to swear at you or I have to really demand your attention by being louder or whatever. And I never liked that because I'm not that person by nature. I'm a romantic, mushy person. I love to just be very affectionate with my friends and family. And we talked about this at my job about being your best advocate. And for a long time, I let waiters and waitresses like ask my mom, well, what does he want to eat, without me ever replying. And all that did was really mess my self-esteem up more. And of course, it hurt me with dating and so many things. And I eventually was just like, I need to do a podcast. I need to do something to get my voice out there. And I just did it on a whim. And then little by little, like I started reliving all the abuse and all that. And it took a lot out of me. But after a while, like when I say these things, I don't say them like, oh man, like being molested doesn't matter. It does. But I can say it with such confidence because that will never stain me anymore. Like I have put myself in a position where you can't call me blind TJ. You can say that, but you'll never exist in my life. And you'll never be able to convince people otherwise because I'm TJ who is so happily legally blind. And I've had to rewire that. It's not about what other people told me. People can tell me whatever they want. But I had to develop some real self-confidence. And the irony about me is I'm a very visual person, and a lot of my confidence comes from having good eye days. And I had to really take some of the really shitty, dark days when my eyes weren't so good. I had to learn how to thrive within them. Otherwise, I would always sit there and pray for good days. And it's like, well, they may not be coming for a while. So what are we going to do? Are we just going to sit here and cry and feel sorry for ourselves? We have to find a way around that too. And so I started to really tap into how to use my eyes during the worst days. And then little by little, this whole advocate thing came out of me. And it was like, whoa, okay.
Well, that's something you could hang on the wall. That is, as the kids say, that's a pelt you can put up on the wall, a victory for you to be able to find it in yourself, to say, I believe in myself so much that I don't care if somebody calls me blind TG. That person does not exist.
Yeah.
And that does not define who I am. This defines who I am. And this person that I talked to today, that I helped to navigate a dark area or a problem that they're going through, that defines who I am. And that's hopefully what I've come to at this point in my life. I was never involved in the world of sight loss in terms of the industry of the blind, the national federations or the low vision equipment market, which is out there, the technology that's being developed. I was never part of that. But I decided here, as I'm entering probably the last third of my life, the next 30 years, as Tim McGraw would say, I am going to try and take my life experience, my 40 years of sight loss and navigating a sighted world with low vision, and to be able to connect with people. They could be having the affliction or could be a member of their support network, the families and friends, community that have questions about it, and really want to pound this home, this point of connectivity between you and I, and what I want these people to learn, which is mental health is so important, and recovery and coping skills, they're there for you. And sometimes it's like pardon the analogy, but the light comes on. But other times it is a slog, man. It is a slog to think about it and talk about it and do the drills and see the doctors and all of that kind of stuff. So, but if you can do it with a support network, if you don't feel alone and isolated, then you're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like they say, like when a football game is like, it's a very low scoring. They'll say it's like a rock fight, because you're essentially like, if let's say you're having multiple bad eye days in a row, and you're just looking for any sort of improvement, and maybe your eyes are less sensitive to the light today for 25 minutes. You're like, well, that's an improvement, but then it goes downhill again, and you're trying to take any of the good that you can. Like when you're having a good moment or a good time, your vision's a little better. Crap, I better go do the dishes, and like you're trying your best, and like you're really not accomplishing much, but you are fighting for yourself, and you're fighting through it. Where there's a lot of times, in the very beginning or the middle, I would just curl up in a ball and just let my demons pound me to death, and I would just sit there and just take it. Yep, you're right. I am garbage. You're right. I am ugly, and I'm blind, and I'm all these things. And just do what you got to do to me, and just make it quick. Of course, they never made it quick, but yeah, they're again, like I said, there's no blueprint for this. You have to live it. You have to survive it. And that's why when people tell me, "Oh, I got a master's in mental health and all that," yeah, so do I.
Oh.
So do I. Trust me. I've nearly tried to kill myself because of this, and I've came out on the other side of it and loved myself. So you can say what you want, but I've fought for myself. And I fought for myself when I didn't even like me. So I was convinced that I was worthless because of all the things people have done to me and told me. So, yeah, I don't have any actual physical degrees in this, but I lived it. And
no, you got your PhD in the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
that's how it was explained to me one day. And you can take all the accreditations that are framed on the doctor's office, and they don't amount to a hill of beans. And by the way, I'm trying to keep my references and language clean here because I was raised in the central Pennsylvania world of grocery store break rooms and working night crews, and I can turn the air blue with expletives about some of the powerful emotions. But I'm steering away from that.
Yeah, you can if you want. I do it all the time.
I know, just in case my family hears any of this stuff. But that's what you just talked about. Of you go from thinking about killing yourself or being in that arena of taking your own life to loving yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the journey. That's the winning part of a journey that we all seek and hope for. And I'm a visual guy too. The human species learns 80% of what it knows through visual information and cues.
Mm-hmm.
And that is me as well. My number one terror is a contact lens popping out of my eye. I wear one contact lens in my left eye. I have no lens in that eye. And so when I don't have a contact or a pair of literal Coke bottle glasses on, it is about 23,000. It's almost immeasurable. I mean, it's just a blob. Everything's a blob. And my terror is I'm out. Okay, I am Bob and I am independent. I have a white cane. I have my visual monocular that I can look at the menu in the restaurant. I can see what street I'm on, and I can look and see what bus is coming towards me. And I got the world figured out, and I'm confident, and I'm doable. And one day, my contact lens popped out. And instantly, I was down to a blob of just color and light. And I had no idea where I was, how I was going to navigate to get home. And suddenly, all the confidence that I had built up and all of the context I had on how to navigate a sighted world was gone. And I didn't have the courage to ask a person that was next to me, could you help me?
Right.
I was so frightened and so intimidated. I mean, I felt like, I don't know what an analogy would be, but, a little puppy stranded in the middle of a city. and I was able to, after a couple of false starts, and finally getting someone to help me and put me on the bus and say, "Here you go. This is where you're going." And then talking to the bus driver, I was able to get back to my neighborhood and then talk to some people along the way and get back to my house, and I made it. But when you talk about frightening scenarios, for someone like me, that's what it is. And other people are going to have different frightening scenarios. And I always say, I better not ever get in a fight in a bar, because I will get the crap kicked out of me. Because as I'm looking around, I always forget I can't see.
Yeah.
Because I'm just living in my own brain case and looking out at the world through my own broken window. And I don't know it's broken. It's just my window. And I forget that other people out there can drive and can read and have facial recognition, all of these things that I don't have. So I have a low intensity dread of getting myself in over my head visually, where somebody says, "Hey, pull my McLaren around front for me, will you please?" And then I say, "Whoops, now what do I do?"
Now, can you, because you were much older than I was when this all happened, so can you remember what things look like? Because for me, like, I don't remember what I saw as a 4-year-old. So this is my normal. So the idea of like someone saying, "Hey, look at that guy in the, red jacket way like 3 blocks away," I can't even fathom that.
Yeah. Yep. Vaguely. Again, I've now lived I've lived 40 years. So well over half my life with my impairment. So this is my normal.
Right.
And this is what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I remember kind of before, but that really doesn't matter to me. It's just, today, what's it going to be, and all that stuff. I can recognize a lot of things for sure. And
sure.
I do enough. I move around independently enough that I make the loved ones in my life nervous that I am going to get in yet another bike crash or something like that I shouldn't be doing. But I've ended up in the hospital several times, smashing myself up because I wasn't careful about what I was doing. But I don't think I have to explain to you, or maybe the audience, that independence is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
You want to be independent. You don't want to have to constantly sit in the passenger seat of a car. You wish that you could be behind the wheel, and you wish that you didn't have to confide in people what you were doing, ask all the time, and ask for help, and get over here, and can you read this for me? Can you do this for me? You want to do it yourself. And that yearn for independence, that's one of the prime things that can get me into trouble, because I want to do it myself. I want to do it myself. And you can hear it in my voice. I also get a little bit fussy and angry at people who are just doing stuff out of love. And here I am. No, don't. No, I'll do it. All right. So I still, to this day, have to work on that.
No, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I've said recently, like, one of the best compliments I've received, whether they intended it to be a compliment or not, they were like, "Wow, you don't really carry yourself like you have a vision problem." Because I walk with such confidence, and I navigate around things, and I can sense when there are objects to the side of me or whatever. And then I also match my clothes very well. And so it's like, well, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Because I'm not hiding this. There's no hiding this. But I'm also, it's a huge part of me, but it's not, like I said earlier, it's not what defines me. So I'm going to carry myself, because I feel like just because I have a disability and just because I have felt sorry for myself, I'm not just going to let myself go. I'm still going to try to go to the gym and work out. I'm still going to try to dress nice. I'm still going to try to put a smile on, even when sometimes I'm smiling through my teeth because I'm in pain, whether it's chronic pain or mental pain. And so it's like, that's why I said earlier, it's like, it's really one of my biggest things that I strive for, is to try to just be every day a good representative of not only just people with disabilities, but people in general, because we have a huge problem in the world now, especially just in this country alone, of not treating each other right. And I've always tried to look at the vision part of it and go, I wonder what if the lights went out for all of us, we all lost our vision. We would all find ways to judge people anyway, maybe some sort of vocal inflections or something, but you couldn't be racist if you can't see. You can't really be homophobic or all these different things if you can't see. And I'm not saying, it's a blessing to have any sight. It really is. But I mean, for those who have it and don't know, like they take it for granted, it's like, man, you can see everything. I mean, within what we're what we're capable of, what you can't see under a microscope or a telescope, but you can see just about everything. And it's like, man, you should be grateful that you can drive, because driving is one of the biggest problems for us, transportation, because we can't drive. You know how much I would love to just get up and get in my car and just go grab me a breakfast sandwich and drive home. The small little things in life that I would love to do, but I'm also not going to sit back and just focus on that my whole life, because that's sad. And you put that in the rear view and you say, you know what, I can't do that. But what can I do? And you start to realize there's a lot more things you're capable of, but no one I'm on a bowling team, right? There is no blueprint on how to bowl with a vision problem. There's blind bowling, but it's almost like a mockery of it. It's just giant pins outside in the grass and people are just throwing like a large ball at them. It's not real bowling. And I'm not trying to diminish anything that people do, but at the same time, it's like there's no blind bowler or visually impaired bowler that says, hey, this is how I do it. So I'm just winging it. And that's what I've done my whole life, is just try to wing it. Try to figure it out and tap into it myself, because there ain't no one telling me. And I have blind friends and visually impaired friends, but they all have different things they're into and they like, and different experiences. They have similar experiences in some ways, but they may not bowl. I only know one friend that bowls, and so with a vision problem, and it's a whole new world for me. I'm just trying things, but at the same time, it's exciting, because even when I struggle at it, I get frustrated with it. I go, you know what? How many of these people up here would be doing as well as I'm doing with the vision that I have? I'm not asking for bumpers. I'm bowling just like everyone else is. I know I'm at a disadvantage, but I've been at a disadvantage my whole damn life. So be it. You keep going, and hopefully somebody along the way sees you, or with stuff like this, they hear you and you go, man, like they're doing it. So I could at least attempt to. And that's things that bring me peace, because I don't want to necessarily be a sacrificial lamb, but if when I check out of this world, when this world's over for me, I just hope that I can bring a few people some sort of confidence that, like, hey, that guy did something. He may not have been perfect. He may not have always been the best person or best version of himself, but he tried like hell to just live his life the best way he could.
My OG therapist, name was Fred, and one of the greatest people I ever knew in my life, and led me into the world of therapy. It led me into the world of healing and understanding the human heart, and not being such a pessimistic cynic all the time. And one of the first things he taught me was the concept of cry or try. Mm-hmm. You can either cry or try. And I'll never forget that, obviously, because I'm telling that to you right now. And
sure.
that's the one thing that I can say to everyone. Just try. Just try today. Try something today that's going to feel a little bit better and different. And by the way, this is also self-talk to me, because I'm guilty of, I'm just going to watch Sports Center again instead of doing some of the things that I need to do to accomplish tasks today. So I'm right there with you in terms of the bowling. I like to bowl. I can't see the individual pins. I can see all the white things down at the end of the lane.
Same here.
And so there, I fired in there, and I see what happens. And here I am, blinded by a firearm accident, and I'm down in my man cave home office, and over there's the gun cabinet, and I have 4 12-gauge shotguns sitting in my gun cabinet over there. The family heirlooms and stuff like that. Yeah. But every once in a while, once every couple of years, I'll go with my buddies, and we'll go out and we'll do some target shooting. I can still shoot a rifle with a scope, that type of thing. I would never go out hunting again, because I wouldn't trust myself.
Yeah.
In terms of I would never, ever be sure about pulling a trigger in a hunting environment because of what happened to me. I often say, as weird as it is, the blessing is that I got shot and I was not the one that was on the other end, because knowing my mental framework and my emotionality, it probably would have, I think that it would have been much more detrimental to me. I'll never know, but just knowing who I am, like I can't stand to see a puppy getting beat, much less being in charge of hurting someone else. So
Same here.
as rough as stuff is, I can take solace and find gratitude in the fact that, okay, this stinks, but it's my stink and I'm dealing with it. And I don't have to worry about someone else's life that I impact and stuff like that. Matter of fact, I have to do a better job. I know the guy that I was hunting with that day. He's a great guy, a good friend, and I don't do a good enough job about checking in on him. So
Yeah.
I'll have to put that on my to-do list now.
That's something I do a lot of content on social media and stuff, and that's one thing that besides gratitude and many other things, one thing I talk about is just being there for others, because I know what
Yes.
it's like to have no friends and be completely alone with your thoughts, and all the thoughts are, hey, you should just kill yourself, or hey, you're gross, or your eyes is that's all that you're defined by. Everything, all the negative things that you shouldn't be thinking are going through your head, and you have no one to rely on other than maybe your mom. In my case, my mom and my grandma, and I didn't want to put that on them. So I just bear it myself, grit my teeth, and just take it. And now that I have a position where I have a voice now, and because I have this platform and I do a lot of advocacy, I have so many friends with all sorts of ailments, and just people trying to stay sober. People trying to stay, in a home. I have friends who've been homeless, and are just struggling with their own identities or addiction and just their health issues. And I try my best to check on them. But there was a period of time about 5 months ago where I tried to quit my antidepressants, and I said, hey, I can't do this anymore, but I definitely can't do this alone. So I'm going to close up shop right now. I need you guys, because I can't be the one that checks on you right now, because I am really in a bad place. And they did, and it got me through it. Obviously, I did a lot of the hard work, but without them, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd have gotten through it, because I have gotten through it before by myself, but it helped so much better to know that there were people rooting for me and cheering for me to get through it. So yeah, no,
I heard you talk about that on your pod about going off the meds, and you're sailing along, and then just one day you're not.
Yeah.
And man, I can get there myself. My brain turns into white noise, and it is about 500 helicopters just flying around in my brain with all types of distracted and destructive thoughts. I mean, there's none of this New Testament up with people stuff is in my brain. It's all the BS and all the negative. It's just all the puke and the barf and the Satan in the world floods into my brain. And then, of course, it's only 18 inches from your brain to your heart, and it trickles down into my heart, and I become a man that I don't want to be. So I have to constantly work on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally like, for a while, it was like an action movie. Like my head was just like, it was a war zone. And I would be fighting war after war, to where what was going on the outside, I had nothing left to give to anybody. And I've told this story many times on here, but I remember vividly, and maybe I even told it on that episode, not sure, the one you listened to, but I was with my mom, and we were at a grocery store, and her friend that she worked with, she's a nurse, my mom, and one of the friends she worked with, went to school with, she was like, hi, this is, and I don't remember his name, as many years ago, and he stuck his hand out, and in my head, I envisioned myself just like with a strong grip going, hey man, I'm TJ, nice to meet you. And my hand was shaky. I stuck it out. I barely grabbed his hand, and I went, I am TJ. I had nothing, because if he would have thought I was just some asshole, I wouldn't blame him, because I gave him nothing. And I had nothing, because all I had was the fight that was going on inside. And that was just to stay alive. And so, yeah, I understand all too well. It's like, there's some really dark places your mind can get to, but there's some very beautiful things that can come out of it if you can come out of it. And unfortunately, for a lot of people that have struggled like we have, they aren't here anymore. And I think about them too, because there's a lot
Yes,
of us
I've
who aren't.
run into. I've got two really good friends lost to demon rum, as one of my mentors would call it, lost to alcoholism. And these were beautiful people, and well, you just can't say enough about the powerful, just the powerful crap that can affect people's minds and affect their daily decisions. So I
Yeah,
guess we can say a prayer of gratitude that made it through today, and the switch hasn't clicked there yet. So my
yeah.
heavens,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to be morbid, but it's just the truth that
no, it's
we face.
yeah,
I mean, regardless, as you and I, obviously, people can tell we're in good moods, good spirits, we feel good, but it all can change tomorrow. Obviously, I'm not trying to speak that into existence. I'm sure you and I could make it through anything. We're fighters, but as I said, 5 6 months ago, I was in the thick of it, and I thought I was over all this shit. You think the cloud is gone because you can't see it up there, but it's always
mm-hmm.
hovering. It's just waiting for the right opportune moment to just be like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah, you're pretty ugly, right?" You're like, "Huh? What?" Like it'll come in when the moment it doesn't need you, or when you don't need it. And not that you ever
Yep.
need it, but I mean it'll show up and it'll basically consume you, and it will make you can, like I said, during that time I looked through my life through the lens like my whole life was on fire. You could look at your life totally differently when your mind is all jacked up. When you have
Mm-hmm.
not, when you can't see anything for what it is, and weirdly enough, as you said, we are both very visual people. It's very weird when you look at your life, whether it's your job, your health, your family. You start questioning everything and going, "Oh, this all sucks." And then when you come out of it and you look at that same life that you just saw a week ago, a month ago, whatever, you go, what the hell was I seeing? What kind of illusions, what kind of like holograms, projections that was being thrown at me that how are you supposed to beat this when your mind can play such tricks on you? It's as they say, it's a mind fuck. It's very challenging because you think you know everything about yourself and your body and your mind, and then all of a sudden, like, you go back to old behaviors, which is another thing I had to learn during that time. Was I was my biggest thing was, oh man, I'm going backwards, because my last, like with the suicide attempt and all that, was 16 17 years ago. I'm going all the way
Mm-hmm.
back to that. I'm that person again. And then I realized, no, I was the same. I'm a much better person, and I was still taking steps forward. I just was going at a slower pace than I was before, because I was still holding down a job. I still wanted to go to work. I still confided in people. I still tried to do recordings for the podcast. I still tried to do social media posts showing all that I was going through. I did all the things that I would completely avoid and divert from previously, because
Mm-hmm.
before I would just hide. Like I said, I'd curl up and let my demons beat the hell out of me. And that's not what I did this time. I didn't run from it. I was scared, but I didn't run from it. And so, like I said, I may not have been running. I was maybe walking, but I was still moving forward. And that's all that mattered.
It is, and it's one of the things that I find that is daunting to me is that I have a lot of high achiever, very high functioning friends. I
Mm-hmm.
like I like being around the A type personalities,
Sure.
the accomplishers. Of course, as you and I both know, behind closed doors, there's a lot of different stories here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not everything is as it appears. But I'm talking about the guys that I say, man, I'm kind of struggling, I'm kind of down, kind of depressed, and they just look at me like, depressed? What are you talking about? They don't understand what depression is, and depression is not a thing to them because they're so task oriented. They're on to the next thing, and I want to talk about feelings and emotions and life experiences and wins and losses and life lessons learned. Not interested in any of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
Uh, it's they make a dismissive gesture. They're not being mean, but they just don't have time for that stuff because it's the project, the next project that they're working on, and that's daunting to me. And I look at them and I say, man, I wish I could have what you have. I wish whatever wiring was firing that engine in your mind, I could tap into right now. so that I didn't sit there and wallow and look back. And I'm a huge stonewaller in terms of interaction. When I get into a funk, you're familiar with stonewalling, that concept?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, that's me. I shut down, buddy, and I fume and sulk and stonewall, because that war going on in my head just shuts down the ability to articulate, to explain, to process. None of it. It's just it's a runaway freight train of shit, that kind of stuff in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah.
that's what I deal with. Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. No, and you feel the way to fight back is, you start arguing with yourself, you start trying to tell yourself it's going to be okay and all that, and it's like you're fighting yourself, like a version of yourself from the future that knows all your moves. And every time you go to punch, they dodge. You shoot at them, they catch your bullets. Like, you're just like, what do? I don't know how to defeat this. You are 10 moves ahead of me. I'm literally just I'm just so young, and I'm naive, and I'm weak, and I'm vulnerable, and you're so strong and powerful. How can I ever like thwart you off? And you have to do everything that other version of yourself tells you not to do, because when it tells you don't do something, it's usually telling you not to do it because it doesn't want you to come out of this funk. It doesn't want you to, like in my case, it didn't want me to take medication again, or it didn't want me to be happy. It wanted me to stay there, because that's where it can do the most harm, and that's where it can affect me the most. But when I started pushing back, it's like, don't go to the gym, don't eat better, don't do all the things that could actually benefit you. Stay down here with your pals, your demons that love you so much. It's like, oh yeah, I feel loved, don't I? And I know for some people it may sound crazy for you guys, like for those who don't struggle with this. And I'm happy that you don't have to struggle with it, but you have a lot of crazy conversations with yourself, whether it's outward or inward. Like, and you may vocalize these you may be literally. I've yelled to myself out loud many times to shut the fuck up, because I couldn't take all that was screaming at me inside. And it's not like we actually hear, we're not schizophrenic or anything. It's not like we hear voices. It's just this feeling, and it's just these thoughts that continue to rush through your head. And I always say it's kind of like whack-a-mole, because then you like bop one down, and then another one pops up, and another one, and they just keep coming at a speed where you can't keep up with. And it drives you to a point where like you're almost insane. You feel that way.
Yes.
And it's so hard to bear it, and it's so sometimes very hard to convey it to others unless it's like when people ask me about my vision and what's my vision acuity, and since I don't have a number, they still don't really know how to process it. And it's like, I don't really know how to process it either. This is just my normal. This is what I deal with. Same with the mental health stuff. Like, it is even with the chronic pain and things I've gone through. Like, they're just there. Some days I wake up, my left knee hurts. I don't know why. There's days where my mind is clear and happy. There's days where I have brain fog and I'm depressed, and there's all kind of shit. But it's like, it's just a part of this package. And when I'm in a good headspace, it humbles me. It keeps me moving. And it's why I am the way I am. I'm far from perfect. I wish there are certain parts of me that could change. And I'm trying to be the best version of me, because I know where I was before. And so, it's all I can do. So you give your best, and if your best still isn't working, you just give it some more. Keep going, because when you go from a place where no one cared about you, and to the point now where a lot of people do, I know I've made some real strides, some real moves towards being the version of myself that I always dreamt of. Obviously, I never thought it would take this long, or this is where I would be in life, because I was a very shy person. So now I'm here on a podcast talking about my true feelings. Never would have thought that, but I'm here. And, there are times where you just have to sit back. You got to give yourself some grace and just be like, hey man, like you did really well. Like, I know you're comparing yourself to somebody you went to school with, or your mother, or whoever you want to compare yourself to, who's way more successful than you, but they didn't go through what you went through. And that's not an excuse, but it's like you made it through hell and back, and you're still moving. And look at all the bodies and all the rubble around you, all the people that we lost because of these same things, these same issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still here. And every time you get knocked down, you just pop right back up. It's not this little slow thing like an old guy getting out of a couch. Like it's you're popping right up and going, what's next? And so that's the stuff. Like I said, give yourself some grace, people. There's times where you got to. The only way to move forward is to just be like, look, you're doing good. It may not be what you expected. It may not be what you envisioned, but you're doing it. And I think a lot of times when our demons have a hold of us, we just fall into the traps and we just say, yeah, you're right. We are this and we are that. But you forget how much you are pulling away and how you are fighting back. And maybe you aren't, maybe they're still dodging you, but now it's not 10 moves ahead anymore. Maybe it's 6, but you're gaining ground. And you may never be able to fully get rid of it. But you're progressing, and that's all that matters to me. As long as I'm constantly moving ahead, I don't care as much. It doesn't matter how fast, as long as I'm moving.
I definitely believe in that philosophy of you're either progressing or regressing.
Right.
And I believe that's a truism. And everything you've been talking about it resonates 100% with me. Going back to the vulnerability of things, believer in the concept of vulnerability. And I've gone down the path with Brene Brown on this concept. However, at a certain point, I do start to question, it's like, well, how vulnerable should I be? And when you're vulnerable all the time, you just feel like I'm exhausted. I have the vulnerability exhaustion or vulnerability fatigue, and start looking for other ways to improve the situation other than that. And for those that haven't been in these situations, it's hard to understand the concept of you feel like you don't deserve to be loved. Yeah. And you feel like you're not worthy. And you, again, for those that aren't affected or afflicted by this stuff, it is a real thing that you become comfortable in misery and you become comfortable in your pain, because the pain and the comfort of the pain is better than the fear of trying something new and different and going in this direction to 100%. Try and find a happy solution, because that's intimidating. It's anxiety producing because it's something new and different. Over here is very familiar, even though we know what the outcome of that's going to be, which is feeling like a pile of dog crap. Mm-hmm. But that's my dog crap, and I know it, and I'm comfortable in it. So let me wallow around in it. So
yeah,
I find physicality, as you've been talking about, perhaps TJ, physicality of doing something physical with your body to break the chain reaction of the common thing that goes on, the common negative path that you're on. To break that chain is you take a walk, go to the gym, do some push-ups, eat a salad instead of the usual crap that just is. It's all part of a big toxic mess that is in your physiology and your emotionality, your mental juices, neurons, and synapses, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that my foundation has always been a glass house on stilts, and
yeah.
I'm just trying to keep it steady. No matter how far I'm removed from all the things that I go through. I was dealing with 4 different health issues in a matter of about a month or 2 ago, and I was struggling because my health is really the primary thing that really affects me emotionally.
Right.
And so if my health is okay, and again, my health isn't always, like, my eyes aren't great, but when they're good for me, I'm much happier. I'm much more upbeat and even keel. And when I'm having less chronic pain, my anxiety is down, depression is down. I'm a giver. I'm a person that tries to just be a guiding light for others. And when I'm not,
right,
I'm curled up in my bed, depressed. trying to hope to God that this tomorrow is going to be different. And when it's not, it's just a huge letdown. But yeah, man, it's a fight, and but like I said, I don't know if I don't want to say I wouldn't have it any other way, because of course I don't want to go through this crap anymore.
That's right.
Because I think people like to say all kind of Hallmark card type of stuff where they'll throw out some little quote and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good, but like, can you actually execute that properly? Like, it sounds good to just be like, yeah, love yourself and everyone else will follow. Yeah, it's true, but it's
show me where the switch is that I can throw that switch that says love. Here I go.
Because one of the things you didn't say, and I know you've gone through it, is the feeling of being a burden because you can't drive, because because there are things you aren't capable of and things that people will never rely on you for, and you always have to rely on them for. It is something that you go through and you say, man, this is why I suck. I can't even drive my mom to the store and she's sick now. Or I can't do you hate, you start to hate yourself
nuts
so much.
On.
Yeah.
Dead nuts on. And then you get into the even more subtle phenomenon of starting to resent the person because you're upset that you're putting a burden on them, and then you project right onto them resentment because you have resentment on yourself. It is such a bouillabaisse of crap that we can do in this world where we have to be reliant on others. Oh my heavens!
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I wanted to ask before time runs too short here.
Sure.
Where does spirituality come into any of this for you?
So yeah, that's a good question. So I say there's, and again, I'm going to talk about it, but I always said there's two things I don't talk about here: is politics and religion. Because people already have their minds made up. I don't vote because I haven't found anybody worth voting for. I voted one time in my life. I voted for Obama for his first term, but I won't vote for people I don't believe in. I just don't see the possibility, or I don't see the point. And then religion, it's just because people are so touchy with it. I'm like, you ask me on a text, I will tell you, we can have a long conversation, but spiritual, like I've really tried to figure out what other things are out there and what to believe in, because there's a period of time in your life when you do go through all that we have endured, you start to go, God, why? Why did you poison me? Why did you curse me? Whatever. And then, you do come around and you go, okay, this happened to me and this made me who I am and all that. But then there's still a lot of other things that are unquestioned. Like, it's hard to get the answer from, because it's like, God, but like, still, why are you still kicking me while I'm down? Why are you still making me go through this? And there's a lot of questioning that I go through. And I do believe there is something else I don't have majority of the answers for. But I've always felt like the more now that I've been able to learn about myself, I've always felt like there is something out there, someone that has had my back through some really hard times. And there are moments where I'll get this feeling like, hey, it's going to be okay, when I'm in a place where it's not okay. But and there's no, like, again, no blueprint. There's no evidence or anything that says or how. It doesn't explain like how I'm going to get out of this. It just goes, it's just a little calming feeling, a little like tingle where it goes, you're going to be okay. But I don't understand. I can't see right now, or, I'm in so much pain, or I don't want to be here anymore. What do you mean it's going to be okay? And then a week later, 2 weeks, months later, a year later, oh yeah, it's okay. So I've always believed that there is something there, something or someone who's just kind of been in my corner. It's just hard to feel like that when your corner has been doused in gasoline.
That's awesome and very identifiable to me, because I felt the same sensation from something, that it's going to be okay. But there's a lot of avenues to go down there, and of course we don't have to violate the norms of the pod. I just wondered about that kind of stuff.
No, you could ask anything. I just say that I usually, those are the two things I don't talk about, because it's people. I don't care about backlash. I don't care about people get offended, because my intention is not to hurt anybody. But people that nowadays are very sensitive, and it's like, you don't understand. I'm the one that should be sensitive. You know how many times people say things and whatever else, and when I look close at my device, why does he look like that? Like, I hear it, but guess what? It doesn't affect me anymore. I don't allow that. And maybe it's just because I lived in Philadelphia for so long, where it's just, you have to get thick skin. But
Yeah, you Philly guys.
yeah, but I mean, but at the same time, like I said, it made me who I am, and I
Hmm.
do believe in something, and I'm trying to figure all what that is. I'm not one of these people that is like so hard headed to say like I have the answers, because I don't. I don't
Right.
have, I barely have any. I just say there's a bunch of doors and I have a bunch of keys, and a few of them have been opening up lately, and I'm trying to figure out how to unlock all these doors because I feel like there's some good things behind them.
Right.
And so, yeah, no, I love talking about anything. I'm open. I'm one of those people that says I know a little about a lot of things, and I try to keep my mind open to anything, other cultures, other types of music, whatever. I try to be, in touch with everything because I think it's important. I don't just because I'm white or because I have a vision problem or whatever the things that I like. I like to know what other people like and why they like them. I mean, I'm fascinated by people and their accessible technology for their disabilities.
Right.
I'm just fascinated by people and the things they do to get them through life because as much as I would say, hey, don't smoke weed or don't smoke a cigarette or don't drink or don't do this, I get it though. It helps get you through the day. I mean, whatever it is that gets you to the next day from point A to point B, then I mean, I'm not going to, if you're my friend, I'm not going to say, hey, go do heroin, but I get it. I get why you want to do it because who the hell wants to deal with this alone? Who wants to bear all your pain with no protection, with no body armor? So
Yep.
I get it. I'm not going to tell you to do it because it actually is very harmful, but I also understand. And as long as you have empathy for other people and you can willing to listen and not judge them, and you may have a difference of opinion, but at the same time, you're not enabling or whatever else, giving someone a gold star just because they did something for the 13th time and they continue to go back on it. It's just you can be nice to them and say, yeah, okay, you are sober for a day. Okay, that's great. Now, how do we continue to go on? Because I don't want to keep coming back to this and be like, yeah, oh yeah, you're sober for 6 hours. Like, no, we celebrate it, but we need to get to the ultimate solution or direction of you being sober permanently. And obviously that's hard because
Hmm.
addicts are addicts forever. But as a person who struggles with mental health, I look at it in a very similar way. It's like I am always going to struggle with mental health. But I am months removed from really going through it, and I'm in a much better headspace. And every time I come out of one of these, I really do, as they say, like a phoenix from the ashes. Like I just come out and I'm just like, all right. And I'm happier, I'm stronger, and you just keep it pushing. Like I said, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. It maybe a good day, maybe a bad day, but I'll be here to, I'll be here waiting.
Do you journal?
Well, see, I do this, and then I do a lot of like social media posts, like breaking it up into little segments of conversations like this, just me by myself. So
Hmm.
I get a lot of my stuff out by helping other people and making myself so vulnerable. So that's what helps. I'm a better because of the vision and stuff, and I don't want to I just don't want to have to read it. Maybe it's a lazy thing too. So it's more or less I like to just vocalize what I go through. I like to vocalize what's happening in the moment.
Yep. Every therapist and counselor and sojourner and mentor and person that I want to be around and emulate has counseled me, write it down and journal it.
Okay.
I am right there with you, TJ. However, the visual thing to me, it is a it's a lost leader. There's no enjoyment, no satisfaction, no therapeutic feeling that I get from writing stuff down because it's such a slog to physically write stuff down
Right.
and type it. And when I do, I'm not going to go back and read it.
Right. Exactly.
So I just wondered. Because I like to talk to people about journaling and if they journal and how they journal because it just seems to be the gold standard of therapy.
No, I hear you. I mean, and yeah, I went to therapy for about 10 years and it helped.
But I understand the therapy for you is your project doing this, and you're talking it out. You're the father confessor, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right. But how many people in your life that you've told this story to or how many people you've been around and you've tried to convey it to them, and how many of them actually understood on the level that I do, as vice versa for you. Like, how many people could I tell my story? Yeah, it's different. You got, yours was, from a gun, and mine was from a medication. But at the same time, we're
Mm-hmm.
both legally blind. We both have a lot of very similar experiences. We're two different ages, but we can relate in so many ways. And it says a lot when there are people out there that can relate to you. And a lot of times there's people that have really been able to relate to me that aren't visually impaired, or aren't a man, or aren't white, or whatever else. They just relate because there is parallels to their story, like as mine. And so no, that's always the satisfaction that comes from it, like the awe moment that comes from it, where you're like, oh yeah, like he gets it, like, and that's
it's all about relationships for sure.
Yeah, because like when I'm getting up in the morning, and especially when you're in that like foggy space, your headspace, where you're trying to like figure out even if you want to call off work because you just don't want to do anything, and your eyes are fluctuating and all that. And you're trying to match your clothes, and like, oh, is that black? Is that navy? I don't know. It's really hard to see. Let me put it in this light.
Yep.
I still can't tell. Like when you think about that, and you're like, you know what? Hey, Bob's going through that right now too. We're both going through it. We're both trying to figure out, is it these pants match? And just, oh, did I get oh man, the toothpaste fell off the toothbrush. Now I got to either scoop it up, or I got to try to put more on, because, like you think about these little things that you do every day.
Oh, yeah.
And you think you're alone on it, and you're not. Because it's stuff like that though. When I say those, like dropping the toothpaste, like that's stuff that just makes me go, oh God, really this? But it does make me chuckle. Like it does. It's not funny when I'm having a really bad day, because any little thing you're like, why do I have to even struggle to get toothpaste on a brush? But the same time, when I'm waking up and I'm like, good morning to my cat, and just feeling good, getting ready to go to work, and then a toothpaste drops, I just laugh. I'm like, oh, you stupid toothpaste.
Oh, yeah.
And you just keep it moving. So to know that, like, us two within this conversation is like, yeah, Bob's doing that too right now. So that's kind of funny. And I'm not alone.
How do you get to work?
I take the bus, Uber, or someone will drive me.
Yeah.
But usually the bus.
How far away is work?
About 3 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, so and I learned how to use the buses in Philly, and it's nothing compared to where I'm in now, because everything ends up in the same place here. So there, it's like you can end up in Delaware somewhere. You don't know where or you can end up in a really bad neighborhood. You don't know where you're going, really. You really, like, every stop has to be pretty much announced. Whereas here, they only announce the more important places, like near the colleges or the mall or whatever. And but no matter what, if you get lost, the bus will always end up back up at the transit center in Williamsport. So you can't really get lost. So you have that, like, that safety net. So yeah.
Oh, I know. I was, I'm here in State College, and so Penn State's right here, and it's a very, very sophisticated bus service, but it's very simple because you just have to move students from campus to all the student housing around State College. So it's very easy to navigate. It takes just, a day or two to get used to.
Sure.
I used to take the bus in Tampa, and I dealt with the same thing, because if you miss we used to live in Florida, and if you miss the stop, well, you could be heading over to St. Petersburg.
Yeah. And
that's very intimidating. And, or going up to Clearwater, just if the bus goes past this one stop and you don't make the connection. So
yeah, no, for sure.
The other morning, I'll give you one of these, is toothpaste in the sink kind of thing, which is grab my coffee cup and pour myself a cup of coffee, and within a couple of seconds, I realized something's badly wrong here, and it's because I had my white coffee mug on my kitchen counter upside down.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, I was pouring the coffee onto the bottom of the mug that was upside down on my counter. So I mean, that's just the stuff you deal with.
Well, and so that's the thing. For me, there's times where I go on autopilot. So I just do things that I normally would do, but maybe I'm not using my eyes. And so I've done that once or twice before. And there's times where I forget that I'm visually impaired. Like I'll be sitting on my couch and I'll go to turn on a show on Netflix. And I'm like, you're a dumbass. You can't see it from way over here. Like, why are you sitting here? I mean, and now for me, there are things that I've watched before, so I could visualize some things and add to the little things that I can see on the TV, so I kind of know what's happening. If it's a movie I've seen 10 times, I know what's happening. But, duh, like if you want to watch the game, go over there. Like, go sit on the recliner that's close to the TV. So, yeah, there's a lot of moments where it really does humble you and make you feel dumb, but at the same time just makes you chuckle and go like, oh God, like only like I always say, visually impaired problems. It's like,
oh yeah,
most people can't write.
You have to live a little bit more deliberately with this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And you get your own little low vision life hacks, and you get through life that way.
Absolutely.
So
before
I got all the stickers. Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. Before we get out of it, do you have a website or anything you're like fully on promoting?
Yeah, I will promote my new consulting business, which is Resilient Vision Consulting, and that is the website, resilientvisionconsulting.com. You can go there and you can see what I've put out there. Looking to offer advocacy, some small group leadership things, keynote speaking, things of that nature, and learn more about me and what I hope to do.
That's awesome, buddy. I really am. I was really happy to have you on. I didn't know where the conversation was going to go. I wing it and just see what happens. But I really hope we can keep in touch, stay friends. I'd love to support you in whatever you're going through, or whatever you go through. Like if you need a friend and you're struggling, please call me. Like I said, you don't have to take it, but I'm offering it.
I will take it, and thank you for offering, TJ. It's going to be awesome. I'll look you up when I get up there for the Little League World Series next year.
Please do. I'll find you if you're down here. I'll come find you.
All right, buddy.
All right, brother. Thank you again, for real. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome, sir. You have a good one.
You too, my friend.
Thanks.
See ya. Oh. All right. Couldn't find my phone, so I couldn't hang up. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I really did. Yeah, it was a good one. I have some things I got to go do here. Pretty much sitting in the dark because I haven't been able to turn my lights on with my phone because I'm on the phone, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, Bullet was here. I was going to have him say hi to you guys, but he left. I am recording this a few days after Christmas, but it'll be out in January, February, whatever the hell. But I hope you all had a good New Year and a good Christmas, and I'll see you guys next week as always. And signing out for now. See you guys.